Good morning, everyone. Good morning, my dear friends. Welcome to the session of Book of Nâm. We are now in chapter 4, attention in remembering, and we'll continue our journey together into the unblocking of authentic living. In this adventure, I'm joined by my good friends León. Good morning, León.
Good morning, Mario. Pleasure to be here.
And Hubertus.
Good morning.
Good morning, Hubertus. Always at this stage, I like to express our deepest gratitude for Yoginâm. Yoginâm, that in this amazing piece of work, the Book of Nâm, provides so many insights, so many clues on that magic of that unblocking of authentic living. So our gratitude to Yoginâm. So in previous chapters, we have discussed this very practical approach on how attitudes and behaviors can contribute to become the optimal cause, generating the optimal consequence. And in all this process, we touch upon a key element, peaceful acknowledgement, the importance of peaceful acknowledgement. And today, we will largely explore how the attention in remembering greatly supports the process of peaceful acknowledgement. So this will be our, let's say, call for the journey of today, attention in remembering, that comes with a message of great simplicity, in which progressively we remove layers of ignorance and connect more and more with that transcendental element of what is. The fact that it is very simple does not always make it very easy. And for that, we have the good friends here, Hubertus and León, that perhaps can give us some clues on how to make this more comprehensible and more approachable. And I will start with León, that will give us a bit of the conceptual framework around this beautiful chapter, Attention in Remembering. The floor is yours, León.
All right, thank you, Mario. Thank you for this introduction, and again, good morning, everybody. This is chapter 4. is in comparison a very brief, very short chapter, attention in remembering. So maybe just useful to recall some of the vocabulary that has passed in the episodes before. The red thread. The ultimate that living originates in and is sustained by, the unknowability that is in there, and we referred to the I world, how the experience of I and the experience of world, how that is one continuity, which is I world. We referred to resonance and how you are sharing in infinite resonance. We had the consciousness and awareness, how you are a being of consciousness and of awareness, where awareness is more this transcendental nature of human being. And as Mário also said, about the state of ignorance which is veiling this awareness, and how there is a state of maturity, a state of wisdom may evolve, which doesn't evolve from learning but from opening, and how attitude and behavior are very key components of that, how you approach life, how you approach living. And then, of course, in the last episode, there was this highlighting of cause and consequence, and how this leads to an ethics of cause and consequence, and how you are aware that you are the cause and that you are the consequence, and that it is really about becoming a different cause. And remembering what this chapter is about is another tool in becoming a different cause. And then, of course, we had the concept of what is, that all of totality and all its embracingness here and now, what is. And how indeed the ignorance is hiding that. So our world, Yoginâm says in this chapter, needs to purify itself from that. And as we also know, this is a practice that takes place in living, through living, and therefore also in each moment of living. So it's not just Nam, it's not just a set of tools, kind of a 5 steps towards success kind of approach, or a focus on that you have on certain days of the week or parts of the day. It needs to be carried ongoingly by ongoing remembering of that dimension of living. So attention in remembering, the chapter is called. So we know that all and everything is constantly the all-embracingness of what is, the infinity, the totality. So all is a constant expression of that, and all is taking place within that wholeness. So this is kind of the scope, the reality of your living that you will want to keep on remembering yourself about. So Yoginâm says that remembering starts with consciously guiding it with specific attention, with full of intent, intentful attention. And when you activate that attention, he says it's like a coloring glass. So it gives each different situation in living a different hue. And so by this practice, you develop different eyes, let's say, to the ordinary layer of just daily living, you could say. You add this other layer of remembering, which links into awareness. And by doing that, you create that the situation has a very different soul imprint, and that soul imprint that can trigger this opening to awareness. So Yoginâm says that by attention and remembering, you may reach a degree of attunement in which then guidance can demonstrate what is, and that may lead to gradual emergence of wisdom. So this is also linked to attitude and behavior again. So remembering shapes attitude and behavior, because the remembering of what you are dealing with, kind of the scope that you are in, this all-embracingness of what is, obviously also gives shape to a certain attitude then towards in situations in which you are. You may be triggered to be naturally kind, naturally respectful to the circumstances in which you are. So this shapes the attitude and behavior. But gradually also this will become more a natural choosing of attitude and behavior that is in attunement. And then also Yoginâm says the attitude and behavior themselves become also a practice of remembering. So this is also something like you participate in living, and it would all seem like in which you are like a random event where randomly and quite meaninglessly people are together in a constellation. But you remember then in that it is a reflection of what is, of a totality coming to expression, of infinity in a moment of now. And so this actually generates meaning to that circumstance, and that kind of meaning, Yoginâm says, that generates the well-being. So important about one aspect that he emphasizes several times in the chapter is that the remembering is not a remembering of a something, so of an idea, of a belief. He even gives the example there of the idea of oneness, of that all is one, which is a very, very tempting idea. It's also a very attractive idea, but the remembering, he says, is simply you remembering what is in its aspect of all embracing. So he says that ignorance comes up with constant concoctions, is the word he uses, that blur attunement to what is, to awareness, to the wisdom that you are. And so usually the ideas that you may put in, if you put ideas into this remembering, this is very much, can be very easily part of that process of ignorance, creating these type of concoctions. So, and he also says that this actually such any idea, kind of, it will constrict what is. So you limit what is to the idea. But what you will want to do is you will need to make what is as wide as possible. And therefore we say it's infinite resonance. It is all embracing. Because you are I-willed, and you are what you see, you are what you experience. So if you limit what is, then you limit yourself. And if what is infinitely wide, you are opened to that being infinitely wide. So, because people who focus on limitation do think that it is the reality, and basically you cannot believe that there is something like beyond, something more limitless, and so, but that is only because they focus their attention on the limitation, and then you can simply not see the reality which is beyond that. So this is very much key. And another element of this, not that remembering is not remembering of a something, is also that whenever you ascribe to what is, we spoke about it before, ignores the unknowability of what is. And you need to allow this space of unknowability. And so by allowing the unknowability in remembering, Yoginâm writes, this gives shape to this openness in expectation, in anticipation, because you don't know what it is. And in this way, this transcendental nature, which is your nature, will gradually saturate I-willed, the reality of I-willed, to fulfillment, he writes. Then there's also another instrument of remembering that he shortly touches upon in the chapter, but it will definitely come back in further chapters as well. And this is the breath. So the breath is actually an instrument of remembering, which also touches on the more unconscious part of that process, whereas attention is a very conscious act, that's a conscious movement. And the breath is a sound that is repeated inwardly in synchronization of the physical breathing. So that sound, which is in itself irrelevant what the sound is, and when you have it, you can never speak it out. You can also not select it from a book for yourself. It has to be kind of given to you. But what this does is that it integrates the breathing itself, your breathing itself, into this process of remembering. And so quite naturally thereby, every moment of living is drawn into this remembering, because you are constantly breathing. So the breathing itself, that is obviously very profound and very potent, if this breathing becomes an act of remembering. And it also means that the remembering can continuously go on in any situation in which you are. You can be in a busy train station or airport, and you can be, through the breath, through the breathing, be remembering. You can be in a complicated meeting. You can be sitting on a terrace with people, and ongoingly you can be remembering. practice the remembering through breathing. So this is very strong and very elementary, very essential. There's another concept that Yoginâm introduces and then touches upon very briefly in the chapter, but this is definitely going to come back a lot, and it is the concept which is asha, a very beautiful concept within the Nam vocabulary and within Nam thinking and approaching of life. So there is this aspect that each situation is a reflection of all embracing what is. It is an expression of it. And this is obviously not a static situation, although you could say there's something is unchanging about that. Eternity, it's unchanging. But it's also very much part of the dynamic of living. And as we spoke about last time, it has a reality of cause and consequence. There's a rhythm to that, in which constantly all embracing what is comes to expression within the I world of experience. And so living is in this movement. It's in a constant movement within all embracingness. And so you will want to join that movement and to join that rhythm. And so you embrace each circumstance as a reflection of what is. You are aligning I world with what is. And to have a more living relationship, living experience of that, we give that, let's say, a name, and not again a name of something. It's a name. It's a word that you connect to that process, and it is asha, because you could say that something that happened in your life as it did, or that you are here right now. You would say, that's the reflection of all embracingness of what is, but that is a very long sentence, first of all, if you want to continuously repeat that to yourself or remember that. And it's very technical. And so we introduce asha, which is a very, it's a lot of flow in that concept. And asha is this aspect of the affirmation. That something is as it is asha. That something happened as it did is asha. And that we are here all together, this is asha. And also towards the future, whether we will be again some moment together, if it is in asha, you could say. This is so you could say that if you for a moment think of it in more theistic terms, and you could say God, like in the sense of there's nothing but God and everything is God, so everything is the face of God. Then you could also say this resonates with the aspect that it is the will of God, let's say, in that flow. And that could certainly be resonate like that. Yoginâm does say that asha has no like good intentions. There's no like loving intentions. That is not the way he recommends to look at that. There's no liking and disliking involved. So asha is resonance. It is the natural course. It is, if you will say, it's kind of natural law. It's like how it naturally goes, and also like cause and consequence. A consequence of a cause is simply a natural response to a situation, and not like a organizing principle that let's say punishes, or this kind of element. Everything is constantly a natural consequence. What he does say about asha is, so it's reflecting what is, and he says its objective is to guide I world to attunement of what is. So it demonstrates what is. So this is very much a natural process towards the realization of all that you are. And in a way, you could say it goes by itself if you allow it to occur. But you need to pay very close attention. You need to listen, and basically you need to develop the eyes with which you can witness that, with which you can witness perceive this like what is, everything being a reflection of what is, coming to realization. And this is, when considered an idea, sometimes you get that kind of feedback that it may seem kind of abstract, but it's only abstract as long as it is an idea. When you bring that to practice, it becomes very concrete. And Yoginâm also commented at some point, it becomes very intimate, and it's much, much closer than just feeling good. So he also wrote, of course, that it is a natural movement to go from ignorance in infancy to wisdom in maturity. You could say life wants to pull you there, and you need to allow it. And the remembering is taking off layer after layer, purifying I world to be open to what is. And he writes, it places the living of I world at the disposal of what is. So just to finish up, he also repeated in a recent talk, you are what you witness. And what is actually important is you cannot see what is in its all embracingness, like see. You cannot realize it, you cannot kind of connect to what is in its all embracingness, because it is the totality beyond everything, which makes it not an idea, it's a totality beyond everything, within which you have a playground. And within this playground, you can be the creator of your life. Actually, you are the creator of your life with that kind of attitude, behavior, attention. And this is something to remember. So I will leave it at that, Mário, to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, León. Always so inspiring to listen the very structured way in which you have that ability to present us these important concepts. And yes, I particularly focus when you were referring to the Nâm remembering and placing the living of the I world at the disposal of what is. And there's so much in that, isn't it? So much of, acceptance, so much of affirmation, so much of listening, so much of attuning. It's always, again, this principle of and totality that comes very clearly. And it's beautiful that actually in the book, I was looking to that part, that analogy, like a flute needs to be empty so that the air can come and make a clear sound. I found it so beautiful and so self-explaining on the way that these abstractions can be removed. Speaking about the book, I think it's a good time probably to refer to our very nice productions made by Alexander. Thank you again, Alexander. And go back to some direct extractions from the Book of Nâm on the attention in remembering. Please join me for this one.
Attention in remembering. Peaceful acknowledgement is supported and strengthened by means of ongoing attention in remembering. In all embracing what is, I world is in its purified state. Ignorance needs to be removed by means of living. Wisdom does not emerge from the effort of learning. It spreads by itself like light in a dark room when the shutters are opened. Remembering starts with consciously directing it with specific attention that initiates an alchemy that will gradually transform attitudes and behavior in such a way that the circle of cause and consequence is gradually leading towards optimal attunement. In I world, Nâm remembering is reflecting what is. The reflecting of what is called Asha. This implies that everything that appears in witnessing, which means all the circumstances and situations of ordinary daily living in every possible form, is always Asha. Asha does not favor likes over dislikes. Its objective is to guide I-world towards attunement to what is. Nam remembering is purifying what is from the ignorance that hides it. Everything that is concocted in ignorance is obstructing remembering. For this reason, the Nam remembering can only become true remembering when it is carried by the breath, which is the ultimate instrument of Nam attention. In its initial stage, Nam remembering is an endeavor that, like an alchemy, shapes attitudes and behavior. Gradually, with attunement, the attitudes and behavior become in themselves an expression of Nam remembering. The Nam remembering in openness implies allowing the absence of knowing, allowing that why has no answer, instead remaining in an openness in expectation. In the openness in expectation, the unconscious transcendental nature will gradually saturate I-world and will bring it to fulfillment. Nam remembering places the living of I-world at the disposal of what is. Like a flute needs to be empty for it to allow the air to make a clear sound. The sharing in what is can be imagined as the sharing that a drop in the ocean does in water. The sharing comes in many ways, as waves or as currents, while it is never any other than the essence of water.
Somehow it's always the first time, isn't it, when we go to these words. So, Hubertus, I think it's time to pass the word to you and give you the very easy task to perhaps go a bit in these concepts, how do they come, how they can express in our daily life. How do you see it, Hubertus? How do you feel it in this context?
Well, as you said, it sometimes it strikes me how simple it is, but then when you try to explain it to somebody, it's like Augustine said about time. You know what it is, but if you try to explain it, you don't know what to say. But I'll take up this challenge a little bit and see what happens. You know, I recall a quote of Yoginâm, that I try to recall sometimes, and it says that you can read yourself into knowledge, but you cannot read yourself into wisdom. And I think the emphasis on knowing has misled our culture already for 2,500 years. This increasingly being addicted to knowing, because every knowing is like making a photograph of something that is so vast and continuously moving, but you forget all about that and you stick with the photograph, and then you say, now I have something, I own something, I know it, you know. So in this era of science and technology, this knowing is expressing, we think, wisdom, but actually it is a kind of a delusion that we have. And with this delusion, we shape reality and we decide how to form our living together, and we decide on political issues. And that, I think, that is why it is very important to adopt the realization that we really don't know anything, in the sense that we possess knowledge. We don't. The most beautiful thing that we have is what we are, and that's a flow of experience. And this flow of experience is expressing something much wider. That is like in the metaphor just called. No, we are a drop in the ocean, but our essence is water. So if we know all kinds of things about being our drop being, we make the drop as the measure of everything. So we limit everything to what we can perceive and understand. And I think that's demystifying reality. It takes away the beauty and the unexpected aspects of living life, and the wonder and the awe. But I think that already for many years, in all kinds of cultures, all kinds of sages and thinkers and philosophers and wise people try to open up these shutters that close our windows, so we live in the dark. And there is one of these people is called Plato, and Plato he tells some stories, and one of these stories is about living in a cave. And I think maybe it's nice to bring about this story about living in a cave. And he talks about this in a book. It's called the Politeia. And this is about how to organize a state in such a way that we live in a just society, and where everybody can blossom optimally, so flourish, no? And then they have this dialogue, because he's always he is referring to his teacher Socrates, having a dialogue with somebody. And in this dialogue, Socrates is talking to somebody and explaining him about the nature of knowing. And then he says, well, you know, we are when we get born, we are educated, we are brought up by people, and we form all kinds of opinions about reality. But these opinions, they are the result of a kind of ignorance. So he calls it doxa, means opinion. You know, you just have an opinion about it, but you treat it like you know something. So he gives an image that helps the one he's talking to linger on what he's trying to explain to him. So he says it is with us like with people who are born in a cave. They are imprisoned in a cave from their birth on. They grow up and they sit there in this cave and they watch upon a wall. And maybe it's nice if you stand with Socrates on the hillside. He's explaining this story. So they are now looking at this image, you know, people sitting in a cave. So we are looking at people sitting in a cave. Actually, we are the people sitting in the cave. So, but that's another thing. And then these people, they sit there and they watch upon a wall and they see shadows on the wall. You know, this is the nature of our sensory reality, is we are seeing shadows all of the time. And then we see the shadows move and we hear sounds and we want to know a lot about it. So we try to brag a little bit. I know a little bit more than you do because I've studied it. I have a diploma on it. I am a professor in this shadow area. Because when you hear and then you say that's a Ferrari and this guy invented it and this technology is inside it and all these things. So we know so much about it. So, and other people say, wow, you know so much about it. So you're an authority about this shadow. You know everything about it. So this is the nature of our reality. And in fact, it sounds a little bit simple, but if you realize that everything that you are perceiving is a programmed reality, you're perceiving the world through programs. So what you are seeing is actually a shadow. It's not the ultimate. It is an expression of the ultimate. It's not ultimate itself. It's an expression of the ultimate. So there are many more expressions of the ultimate possible, but we think this is it. And then the story goes on, and these people are sitting there in the cave, and one of these people, and sometimes the story is told that is liberated by somebody, and another time the story is told that he liberates himself, but the liberation happens. And what is this liberation? This person that is sitting there is only able to watch one side. He looks at the shadow, but then he starts to get up, and he starts to move his head, so he's leaving his perspective, and he looks around, he turns around, and then he sees something that his eyes cannot accept, because he sees a fire, and the fire is so strong that his eyes have to adjust to the light. And then when he takes the challenge to adjust his eyes to the light, he starts seeing things that he never see before. He sees the fire, and he sees that people are carrying objects in front of the fire. And then slowly he starts to understand that what he is seeing is actually the shadows of these objects that are held in front of the fire. Can you imagine that? You see, there is a fire, there's an object, and then there is a wall, and the shadow of the object is on the wall, and people are looking at that shadow, and they say, this is reality. But the guy who got up, or the woman who got up, turned around, and then he sees the cause of the shadows. So the shadows are, in a sense, the consequence of the cause. So this story is full of things. And then he realizes that this is more closer to reality than watching the shadows. But then it's not finished, because the story goes on. And then he goes out of the cave. He's drawn out of the cave in a way. And then he gets into the real world. And fortunately, he gets out at night. It's dark outside, so that is okay for him. But then he sees the stars, and he sees the moon, and it's amazing. He cannot comprehend what he's seeing. It's so large and so vast and so unimaginable what he is seeing. So and then the sun comes up, and the light gets stronger, and he hides behind the bush, and it takes a long time for him to adjust to this different kind of reality that he is perceiving. And then when the time goes on, he slowly starts to understand that this world is full of people and animals and trees and plants and happenings. And then, okay, so then he understands, now I am closer to reality than I was before, because these objects that I saw downstairs in the cave are reproductions from the reality I'm perceiving now. So these objects, these artifacts, are the shadows that are casting shadows on the wall. In that sense, he is approaching a different understanding of reality. And then after a while, he really understands that everything that he is seeing, he is able to see because the sun is shining its light upon the world and makes the visible things visible. It's because of the sun that we can see the things. So then he gets a different, wider idea about cause and consequence. And then the story ends because this sun in Plato's story is representing the highest idea. And there's a because you have to understand that behind this allegory of the cave, there's a metaphysics, that the whole world is an expression of a transcendental reality that's called the world of the ideas. And as León said, ideas are still human conception. So, but this is the phase that we are in now. He starts understanding, because the next level is actually how to move in this world, how to act, how do you know what to do in this world? then you have to have a good understanding about what is right to do, what is the good. The highest idea, as Plato says, is the idea of the ultimate good. Well, what does that mean? That means that you know what to do in a certain moment. You have to have the insight, what is beneficial to do, how to be an optimal cause, actually. But the mystery within the story is that after the first liberation, the second liberation comes, and he goes out of the cave into the world. And then the third liberation comes because he starts to understand that his actions should be steered by a kind of a realization that he is acting in a totality, and when he acts, he has to attune his actions to this totality. So he has to have an idea how to be, how to act, how to go about things. And then you never know when this liberation cycle is ending, because there's a next liberation. And then I think we have to go back to each teacher. And these things are not regularly treated when you read about Plato. But the one of the most important lessons that Socrates taught the people by speaking to them and asking them questions until they didn't know what they were talking about, is that you have to know that you don't know. So everything that you are concocting about reality is actually a kind of a delusion. It's approaching to realize the nature of your own being. So the sun is not just a metaphor of the good that helps you to know what to do. I think in Nam terminology, it comes closer to the certainty. But realizing your transcendental nature, realizing the red thread, realizing that you are an expression of the allness of all, gives life a different hue, gives every situation, every daily life situation, a different meaning. And in that sense, then you start to realize that you're not just a drop in the ocean, but your essence is water. So if you are in a situation, I think that's for us always the thing to realize. And it doesn't matter what kind of situation you're in. Let's keep it simple, because we have this emotional layer that we find very important in daily life, but it's always, like the Stoics also say, it's polluting our wisdom in that sense, because we want to feel good. So let's talk about being emotional, even if you're angry, or if you're sad, or if you're bitter, or if you're scared, or even when you're happy, glad, the good feeling is also there. If you consciously recall that your nature is transcendental, that gives the emotion, this emotional experience is an expression of an habitual program that is based upon beliefs about reality that are a shadow of the ultimate reality, of the allness of all. So this emotion is much less important than you think it is when you are believing that this is the truth, and that what you know about the cause of this emotion is much more than what you can perceive that it is. So you can become, by remembering, consciously remembering, by directing your attention to the allness of all, and that's what Living Nam gives the instruments. By consciously directing your attention to the allness of all, this emotional state that you're in is just an expression that is, let's say, not so very important anymore. You can be liberated from this emotional expression and open to the expression in Asha, because it is happening in Asha. And what is Asha trying to guide you towards? And instead of deciding to remain with this emotion, you can open up and try to see what Asha is helping you to understand, to increase your living and attunement, to be an expression of a whole. And I think this remembrance has, you know, in Dutch, it's called herinnering. And I like to play around with words. So I ask myself, what can you learn from the word remembrance? It becomes becoming a member of totality. In that sense, a shareholder, you become a shareholder of totality. Yeah, a shareholder, that means you're carrying totality in the way that you are acting with your attitude and your behavior. So if you are in the cave, the shadows, you know, your programs and the results of your programs is all that you have. But if you get out of the cave and you realize that everything you're perceiving is an expression of the uncomprehensible, how do you say this? Unknowable allness of all. See, then, yeah, it gets a completely different meaning. And then it becomes possible to look upon experience as an expression of awareness. And then you can find a way to carry your being an expression of totality in such a way that you become an optimal cause, which reflects back on you, by the way. But that's a side product, you know. If you're going to be an optimal cause in order to have a life of well-being, then you are just acting that you are water, but you're still acting as a drop. You're not water, you're a drop that is taking care of itself. But if you can forget about the drop and you start carrying being water, then you are completely changed. The quality of your experience is completely changed because you're wearing different spectacles. Your glasses are clean. You're not longer seeing the shadows, but in this reality, you see the allness of all. I think that's what Thich Nhat Hanh means with interbeing. You can see the totality in every instant, in every situation, in every moment. Well, and I think that would be worthwhile. Like living in attunement means accepting the things that are happening as an expression of totality. That means that Asha is always helping you to come closer to being the totality.
Beautiful, Hubertus. I think most of us are not so much interested in the Ferrari, but more on those glasses you just referred to. So where do we buy those? Thanks, Hubertus. I think it's quite beautiful that we are in the context of Nâm Academy carrying out this series. And I really appreciate that reference to those days, yes, with Plato and Socrates. At least in my imaginary, I always see that you know, that type of open school of debating ideas, thoughts in a rather open way, in a rather rich way. And I'm so, you know, so happy that you bring that element into this episode, because it's also about that in the context of Nâm Academy. No, there is a recreation of that debate of ideas world in a practical manner. When I was listening to you, I was about these glasses where you start to unblock the magic of the moment of the piece and that progressive dance that you start with life itself and move forward. It's quite interesting because I guess for most of us, we have moments of meditation, moments of practice, where through our attention, we do touch upon that element of light, of that concentration in listening, where everything suddenly becomes magic. But those moments are a sort of a hide and seek game, you know, you practice, you feel it, you go on to your life, you forget about it, you practice, you seek it. So how do you see that? How do you see this coming into daily life? Can we keep that practice in our daily life? Can we keep that practice in our way we live what is? Yes, Hubertus, yes.
Well, the thing is that last time I took a guitar when we were diving into attunement, and then with the metaphor of the empty flute, I think Alexander made a beautiful song about this metaphor. You know, I'm not a flute player. I have this because I like the sound. So when I try to blow this flute, it sounds horrible. But this sounding horrible is actually Asha guiding me towards attunement. So when the things you're constantly in interaction with Asha is constantly guiding you towards attunement. And I can say, oh, it's horrible, so I put it away. No, because trying to make the nice stone, improving is the transformation is the transcendence of life. So the empty flute is not the physical flute in that sense. It's me being open for improvement, for becoming an optimal cause. And so I have to surrender to this endeavor of allowing a beautiful tone to filter through. So in that sense, I am the flute. That is, when I'm completely open, life can express itself. It's being at the disposal of what is, means actually allowing life to live itself through you.
And it's such a rich round, isn't it? Like that transcendental element of life, that as long as you are putting yourself into that openness, how much expansion can be just there, no? And for me, it's always a challenge. In my personal life, I'm always finding parts of my life, moments of my life where you can fully experience, and other moments where you're completely rooted from it. But progressively, what I found it amazing, and this is also something you've addressed in these chapters, the tools that we are given, they are not tools only to do meditation. They are tools to reflect in our attitudes and behaviors. They are tools that can actually be brought into our life in that openness, in that emptiness, in that seeking of harmony, in that transformational effort in which life is your ally. Life is what you need. Leon,
when I speak from my personal experience, but that can be different for everybody. But I'm so happy with these tools because they help me to allow life to happen.
Yes.
So they help me not to interfere from the dropness perspective.
Yes.
And so I find it a kind of a big gift that has been given to us. And it's been given to us for 1,000 years, but now by Yoginâm, they are given to us, let's say, useful in this time without the associations of the past,
Yes.
And so they in that sense, it's easy, because if you are in a situation that you find yourself not allowing life to happen, but struggling with life, going against it, then you just need to breathe. That's the easiest and most powerful tool in living Nam is breathing, the breath. But we will talk about it later on. And then as if you start doing it, life becomes a continuous being at the disposal of what is, because you are saturating your life with the remembrance, with continuous remembrance. And so it comes so close. So it's so within the reach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hubertus. Thank you. Leon, anything from your side that you like to, we're getting towards the end of our session.
Yes. No, I'm very captured by the investment opportunity of becoming a shareholder in totality. So that's a wonderful prospect.
Nobody wants Ferraris, really.
So there's this placing I will at the disposal of what is. I was reflecting about that, and there's this tendency that you may have nowadays about it's my life. I think Yoginâm expresses it in the previous chapter, like, oh, this is my life. But he says, there's nothing beyond life, something there that can be say it's mine. So that's a contradiction. That is per definition an illusion. This is me. This is my identity, and so on. This is who I am. That seems also so normal nowadays. And then you can also say, no, my living is sharing in a living of an all-embracingness. And And then it is quite clear that if you manage to attune to that through these type of tools like remembering and asha, in a way, I guess you could say life actually does. There is something which does become easy about life, in the sense that it does create tranquility, a certain kind of joy, and certainly a trust in living, because you are living in the wider living, so it creates a state of well-being. So if you look at that between these type of options that you could have, what kind of scope you give to living, this is definitely the healthy choice, I would say. And I think it is very natural for both an individual human being, but also a culture, to make the healthy choice. And if there's time, I just had to I was reminded of a very one of the earlier texts that Yoginâm wrote. It was called, the title, "Boulders in the River," and it's about there's a flowing, streaming river, and there are boulders, stones, right, rocks in there. And then there is this tendency that people may have to go out of the river and go sit on the rock. And then you sit on the rock and you say, this is who I am. This is rock. This is my life. This is this rock. But then actually the whole point is to stay in the river and to be in the river and to flow with the river. Allow that course to take that it takes you. And of course that river in that story ends up in the ocean. And so it's about saying no, I'm not water. I'm a drop. I'm a water, and I'm in the river. And I always thought that was a very beautiful perspective. So I think that the movement of the river is definitely that what you would want to join in living. So
let it be. Let it be. And such a feeling of harmony and love really comes from this experiencing of your words, León and Hubertus. Thank you so much, my friends, for your so clear and heartily addressing of this beautiful chapter. I take this opportunity to also announce that in the context of Nâm Academy, we have updated some important texts. There is one that I really love for its simplicity, that I'll outline particularly what is Nâm, where Yoginâm, in a very simple and direct way, really goes on what is Nâm. We have another article by our good friend León that is also encompassed there. So I would like to encourage you to keep an eye on the Nâm Academy webpage and see the updates and also be part of this adventure. So with this, and if I'm not forgetting anything, I'm looking to León and Hubertus. I think we could close the session for today. I thank you all, and yes, let's continue our journey in this tune. Thank you so much, and see you then in the first Sunday of August, which I believe yesterday we were discussing it. It goes actually to around the 6th or the 7th of August, something like that, right, León?
7th, probably.
7th, probably, yeah. Okay, thank you all. Join us for our very nice outgoing clip.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Have a beautiful Sunday.
great joy.